In this video, I'm going to be doing 8 different types of Dollar Tree pumpkin makeovers and also 8 different ways to replace those ugly stems. I'm going to leave this pumpkin just as it is. It's natural orange color, but I've got a piece of the paint missing, a little scuff mark on there that's white. So I'm going to start off by putting some leaves around the bottom because I want to make sure to cover up that spot in particular. I picked up these leaves. I thrifted 250 leaves for 25 cents. What a bargain. I don't think I'll run out of leaves anytime soon. And I'm just gluing down with my low temp glue gun, low temp glue. I'm going to make a row of the red and orange leaves at the bottom and a row of the yellow leaves on top of that. I only have those two colors. After going all the way around the pumpkin with those two rows, I've got a pretty good amount of space open at the top. So I put a few more of those red and orange leaves there. I also made a hole for the stem that I'm going to be adding. I lost a little bit of the pumpkin shape when I glued the leaves on, so I went around adding little dots of glue to some of the tips of the leaves so I could get the structure of the pumpkin back. And then the stem that I'm using on this is just a stick I picked up out of the backyard and cut it down to size. You can buy the little bags of stems at Dollar Tree, the little stump pieces, but I like that I got mine for free and it's got a good shape to it. It needed a little something else, so I stuck in one of these little picks from Dollar Tree that I picked up last fall. I don't know what they're called, but they're very decorative and super cute. I thought it added a nice final touch. I'm going to be painting and decorating this next pumpkin. First, I painted it with Tuscan red from Apple Barrel. And then I used some of the gold foil feather stickers from Dollar Tree. And I believe I put 7 on those. I put some larger ones on each side where the stems were, and then added some small ones in between. And I had to put a little dot of hot glue at the top and bottom of the feather so it would lay down right. The stem on this one is a little gold plastic thread spool. I added another touch by putting some twirls on a piece of the wired jute twine from Dollar Tree. And I also added in some little turquoise beads from a broken necklace that I had. And there's my cute boho inspired pumpkin. I'm going to start off this pumpkin by painting it all white. I'm using the Anita's paint because, well, I ran out. Hobby Lobby's close. But anyway, I'm going to smooth a runny coat all over this pumpkin. I'm not going to bother with the second coat. I'm just going to paint it all over and set that aside to dry. Once it was dry thoroughly, I took one of these napkins. I picked up a pack for $1 at Dollar General. I really love this pumpkin pattern and the colors that's in it. And because of the height of the pumpkin, I'm only going to be able to use the pumpkin design without the striped edging. I hope that makes sense. Maybe you'll see what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to get some matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to go pretty heavy with the Mod Podge, one section at a time, and roll that napkin over it. There's no good way to get this wrinkle-free because you're going over a textured surface with a flat piece of a napkin. Anyway, once I had it all the way around, I brushed Mod Podge over the top of that as well. And then I used that other piece from the other side of the napkin, and I kind of connected it to look like it's one running picture going around the pumpkin. Same thing, one section at a time, then brush the Mod Podge on the top. For the stem on this one, I'm using a brown paper lunch bag. I cut the bottom off, and then I also cut the bag open, so I just have one layer, and I started heavily brushing Mod Podge on there, all over the top surface that's showing. I folded it in half, did it again, folded it in half again, more Mod Podge, and then I'm going to take a pipe cleaner that I've folded, and this is going to help me to shape the stem better once I get this all rolled up. I put the original stem on one end. I'm going to use that to go back down into the pumpkin, and it also gives me a good thickness for the bottom of the stem. And I just twisted it up till I had something that I liked. And I left that to dry for a couple of hours. Before I put the stem on, I took out some of these Dollar Tree paper stickers that look like the color of the paper bag. And I wrote on the little banner looking pieces, "Hey Pumpkin." So I put those on together. And then on top of that, I added one of these little decorative pieces with kind of scallop looking edges. And I put down some hot glue, stuck the stem down on that. And there's my napkin pumpkin with a paper bag stem. For this pumpkin, I used the folk art paint color patina, and I put one coat all over that. I used some of the strip gemstone stickers from Dollar Tree that have a gold tone look. And after I got them on, I thought that was a little too blingy for the pumpkin, so I went over those with kind of a dry brushing of that patina color. I took one of these jeweled gemstone stickers from Dollar Tree and put on one that's leaf shaped, and the stem on this one is just a piece of a spindle that I already had. I cut it down, and I think the colors go great. It's actually even colored at the top, the same patina paint. I bought this valance for $1, 84 inches across. I bought it for the fabric. It was new in the package. Beautiful paisley print. Oh my gosh, would y'all look at that. As you can imagine, I'm covering a pumpkin with this. I've got those two seams there loose, and now I can get a good measurement on my pumpkin. I folded the square in half, and then half again, till I've got this triangle shape, and then I cut around the edges so I can have more of a circular shape, which turned out to be an oval, but that's okay. I made a hole in the top with my scissors so I can stuff the cloth in. This is my first time covering a pumpkin with cloth, so it was a little bit of trial and error of trying to get the pleating right and the cloth tight against the pumpkin. I made a stem for this one with some air dry clay. I just rolled out some little skinny snake pieces, a total of 5, twisted them together. I flattened out one end to be the bottom of the stem that glues onto the top of the pumpkin. And then I also made a little leaf shape, and I used a little cookie cutter for that. I just flattened out a piece of that air dry clay and stamped it. I also used a toothpick because I wanted some of the little vein looking details in there, and then I allowed those to dry overnight. I took some dark brown paint and I do a base coat of that, making sure to get down in all the little cracks and crevices. I did a light brushing over that with the folk art brushed metal paint in gold. I broke my little leaf, but it was easy to hot glue that back together. And that's what I used to put my stem on, hot glue. And this is how my first fabric covered pumpkin turned out. I don't have the footage for this, but it's easy to follow along from this point. I used 3 different colors of the Dollar Tree burlap ribbon cut in squares, and I made just kind of a patchwork pattern on top of this pumpkin. Then I wrapped some twine around. And for the stem on this one, I glued together 3 tumbling tower blocks and wrapped it up with twine very well. I left some long pieces on the ends, tied a bow, and then let those ends hang down kind of like little tendrils. And then I hot glued it to the top, and there is my patchwork pumpkin. I'm reusing a pumpkin that I had in a topiary last year, and I'm going to paint it with terracotta color by Folk Art, and I do 2 coats of that. Once that was dry, I took some antique wax from Folk Art, and on a little brush I put it down through those little creases in the pumpkin to kind of make it more dimensional, so to speak. I added an original pumpkin stem back on there and then started adding pieces of sisal rope. This is very stiff rope, and I'm gluing it all the way around that pumpkin stem. A little bit of green showing, but it's not going to matter. I cut it down because I felt like some of the pieces were too long, and I just took those pieces and wrapped around the bottom. Nothing wasted there. Then I glued all those little pieces together. Well, with the exception of a couple that I left out. Then I picked out some pastel color solo wood flowers and glued all the way around. And that was it for this pumpkin, and it turned out so pretty. This last pumpkin is also being used from last year's topiary. I painted it with the color Truffle by Waverly Chalk Paint. And I cut down some sunflowers to go on top of this one. I thought the middle of the sunflower matched the truffle very well, and the yellow brightens it up. And here I'm just doing a test run to see how that's going to work. I'm using Dollar Tree nautical rope for this stem, and I'm just going to be twirling it on itself, kind of like making a cone shape. Just trying is the operative word here. I'm trying to go smaller as I go around, but this rope, as you know, is very stiff. So it took a little bit of glue to achieve that. Once I had a shape that I liked, all glued together, I glued that down in the center of the pumpkin and added the sunflowers back on there, and that's that. Thank you so much for watching my video today, and if you liked it, be sure to leave me a thumbs up so I know that you did. And if you're not already subscribed, please click the subscribe button on your way out. Only 30% of my viewers are actually subscribed, so what are you waiting for? Until next time, bye-bye.